Hello there, and today we're going to do a video response, and the video that we're responding to was asking the question, how important is backwards compatibility to you in video gaming in general? And that actually is kind of an interesting question, because there are cases where it's been done right and it's been done wrong, and then it's been so-so, in my opinion. I have just the power base converter for the Sega Genesis that allows you to play Sega Master System games, and this actually allows darn near the entire library. I think there's like 2 cartridges that it doesn't actually support correctly, and there are games that I don't even care about. So to me, this is the perfect solution for me, because I really don't need to get into collecting more Master System hardware as well as Genesis hardware. To me, I already have enough space problems. So anyway, I thought this was just kind of novel, and I'd show off at least a solution that was done okay. And of course, in modern gaming, this is a little harder because there's no cartridge media. It's all software and emulation now. So there we have it, and I'll talk about modern games in my opinion there in a moment. But I did want to point out a series of upgrades and backwards compatibility instances that were done right, in my opinion, and that is focused around the Game Boy. So this is a Game Boy Color cartridge, and the Game Boy Color had support for the Game Boy Black and White and the Game Boy Pocket. So the entire initial library was compatible with the Game Boy Color. How convenient. So from a business standpoint, it's really easy to get people to adopt, because you could say, hey, we don't have a whole lot of software available right now, but you can play all the stuff that we've got out for the previous generation, and you can enjoy that while we spin up a library. And this has been really the model that Nintendo appears to have been using for a while with their handhelds, and I will illustrate that now. So we had the Game Boy Color, and then after they decided to finally retire the Color, they gave us the Game Boy Advance. And the Game Boy Advance, of course, supported regular Game Boy cartridges and its own specific cartridges. How nice. So now that we've gotten tired of playing those old yucky looking Game Boy games, we can now go to the shiny Game Boy Advance games, and there we go. But then what happened? Nintendo released the Nintendo DS, and lo and behold, the original DS, well, even the DS Lites actually supported Game Boy Advance games, as well as their own format, which just went in the back. So you could actually have 2 games at once on these. That was kind of nice. So now we have this. What happened next? Well, Nintendo released the DSi, which we aren't going to count. That's kind of the intermediate step, in my opinion. The 3DS. So now we have games that support, we have a cartridge slot that supports the original Nintendo DS, and we have support for the 3D titles as well. So the beat goes on. And so it's okay, because I buy a 3DS and I still have access to the ginormous DS library, and that's what exactly what happened with the DS. I don't have a whole lot of DS titles, but I have access to the ginormous Game Boy Advance library, and so on down the line. It's incredibly smart from a business standpoint, in my opinion. Now, from a technical standpoint, this is a nightmare. I mean, getting this to play nice with the previous generation, and this wasn't even the same architecture as this generation, and Now I have no idea if these are similar or not. I'm just going to assume not and just call it a day. So what I expect if I was a betting man, I'm not, Nintendo will release a 3DS that will be a light version that will support only 3DS titles and not the DS at some point in the future. And maybe it'll be super compact, or maybe it'll have some other fancy thing that's really cool, but you know, you need it? No, because you can still, you know, the DS Fat, as big and clunky as this dude is, still works pretty good. Even though you can buy a DSi, and of course I have a DSi XL that I like to show off for reviews. So that to me is a series of backwards compatibility done right. Now let's talk about backwards compatibility done in a mediocre to half-assed direction. The Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 are, in my opinion, big offenders in multiple ways. The 360 did it in terms of they had software backwards compatibility that there was just not a whole lot of it. The support felt very half-hearted. And while it didn't necessarily influence my purchases, because at the time I had a perfectly good Xbox that I was going to hold on to, the PlayStation 3, they decided that they wanted to cut all that expensive PS2 hardware out to save on production costs. Perfectly understandable from a business standpoint. What they don't do is there's no transition point, or there's no clean transition point. So for example, this is a clean transition point. I have access to both, lots of them available, and then when the next generation came in, such as the DSi, it was okay because it was clearly a different model. You got some new features in exchange, versus wherein the 360 and PlayStation had a habit of stripping features away that just you didn't gain anything. You bought the system, but you got less for your money, and that's really, as a consumer, that feels kind of bad. From this standpoint, it feels less of a rip-off because you know exactly what you're getting, and you're trading. I'm trading backwards compatibility here for a brighter screen, for a camera, for wireless N support. You get the idea. Or yeah, that's pretty much it. So if they address those things in with some level of a clean break, and I'm not sure what a great way to do that would be. So, but yeah, that's all I have on the matter.